Hello, everyone. This is Natalie Armstrong-Motin. Welcome to the Marketing Resolution YouTube channel. I'm really pleased to introduce all of my viewers to Catherine Cooley in Ventura, California. How are you, Catherine?
Doing very well. Nice to be with you, Natalie. Nice to be with your listeners as well. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate that you've set aside some time for everyone today. I want to chat to you a little bit about your practice. And I know that if people will stay tuned to the end of the video, you have set aside a free gift for all of the viewers. And so we want to mention that now and just put that little teaser in there for everyone. But I know that you're really passionate about the work that you do. And I was just a little bit curious how did you get into this line of work to start with?
Yes, well, it was a long and winding road and a surprising road in a lot of ways. I met Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who created the nonviolent communication model that has now just run wild across the globe and used by many thousands, probably millions of people and large organizations. But I met him in his earlier days, learned his model, took a workshop, and was really impressed right away with the results I got in terms of, I used it at that point as like a tool in my back pocket to get me out of trouble if I was in a conflict. For example, with my partner or my boss. I had a pretty difficult boss at the time. And then we moved to Santa Barbara area and I started a mom's group, and in this mom's group, and I also had another class where I took that was taught in a council circle format. And in that council circle process, they used the Rosenberg model to clear up conflict that developed in the community, because you actually can't sit in a council circle together if you're in conflict. So it made sense. And so I started using it in that context again and got represenced to how powerful it was. And one of the things I noticed, because a lot of us resist using the model, in fact, that's probably one of the biggest criticisms of this nonviolent communication, or it's also called, by the way, compassionate communication, NVC. I'll just refer to it as NVC here. One of the big slams against it is, it's so formulaic, it's so robotic. So people tend to learn it, but then kind of push it aside, get embarrassed about it or something. A lot of things. What I noticed over 20 years of council circle processes and clearings, we call these conflict resolutions clearings between people, I noticed that when people used the model and used it authentically, they achieved what this model is designed for, which is greater connection and greater understanding and really a teamwork, really getting on the same team again. I also noticed when they just did their own thing, kind of winged it through the process, it never worked out as well. And I noticed that in my own life too, for my own relationships.
Right. Well, so what is it that causes conflict between people?
That's part of Rosenberg's genius. He has such a beautiful, easy encapsulation of what conflict is. So conflict, any conflict you've ever had has been about your unmet core needs as a human being. When I say core needs, I mean what it takes for any human being on the planet, no matter their age or geography or culture or gender. The core needs of being a healthy and happy person. So conflict is when these needs aren't being met. The problem is, usually it's unmet needs tragically expressed. And that's where his language of life comes in to address this tragedy. Because most of us, for thousands of years actually, in all of our governmental, educational, religious, and family structures, we have very, very disconnecting habits of language and of thought. And that's what Rosenberg discovered, and that's what he remedied with a very simple but not easy 4-step process. And it's not easy just because it's not easy to rewire anything that we do habitually.
Sure.
Right? And any of us who have bumbled around in a in a foreign country trying to speak even bits of their language know what that's like.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what do you think the biggest mistakes are when people try to manage their own conflict? I mean, I know that for me, it is sometimes that, life gets too fast and I forget to be a good listener.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know from personal experience that I've made that mistake. But what are some of the most common mistakes you see people make?
It's definitely, you've named a couple right there in what you said, Natalie. It's definitely about the listening, and it's definitely about the pace. So nonviolent or compassionate communication, we learn to press pause. Press the pause, promise to return button when we get heated. Because if I'm heated, I'm not going to be able to have a fruitful conversation with you about my needs or your needs. In fact, I don't care at that point. And I'm not even able to access my rational mind. That's neurologically the case, right?
That makes sense.
And there's more and more brain science out on that now. It's really easy to find too.
Right.
So pressing pause is the first thing that, and most of us have heard of it. Again, it's like, we know that these things work sometimes, but we still have these resistances to overcome to make it a habit that serves us. Sure. So most of us have heard, oh, just stop and breathe. And it's true. That is really what it takes when you press pause. Right. And then that promise to return part is important though, because pressing pause, what I've learned is it's actually a teamwork process. And so you especially want to bring this as a tool to your loved ones as an agreement, because I can press pause, but if my husband's not on board, he will find a way to sabotage the pause. I have lived this.
I do remember when my daughter was quite young, and kids, they will act up from time to time. And I did learn to stop, take a deep breath, and say, I clearly have not cared for you in a way that I should have. You've not gotten a nap, or you haven't been fed, or you haven't received enough something from me. And so let's stop everything we're doing and let's address that thing and talk about, why it's so frustrating. And then we'll go back to what we were doing before. And
beautiful.
And I learned that her acting up was a reflection of my inability to handle whatever that moment was, or that situation, or, whatever was happening. And it was generally because we were running too many errands too quickly, or, we had spent too much time in the car on the freeway or something of that nature. But I learned quickly to recognize that it was my failing, not hers. She was a child being subjected to my choices, and that I would stop and, apologize, take a breath.
And these were these core unmet needs of hers for ease, for rest, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so this language helps us develop an awareness of that continually. And I want to weave back to that. What do people do in their conflicts that really messes them up? So besides not pressing pause, so in other words, having a conversation while they're still emotionally charged or heated, besides that, the other thing that's just brilliant about this nonviolent communication model is that it gives us the tools to, during the pause, it's important what you do. Yes, breathing helps. It helps to clear the mind. It helps to relax the nervous system. And there's something very specific we can do during that pause that's going to turn that next conversation into a winning conversation, a win-win conversation. So the first thing is self-empathy. And in this world of compassionate communication, empathy, self-empathy, or empathy for anyone means getting their world, specifically how they're feeling emotionally, how they're feeling, about how their core needs are either being met in that situation, that conversation, or even that relationship, how the needs are being met or not being met. It's a very specific understanding, but I actually can't extend genuine empathy to you until I've extended it to myself.
So how do we learn to do that?
So it's, again, learning how to press the pause button, and then it's learning a literacy. It's a feelings literacy and a core needs literacy. And I can give you an example of what those are. I have lists, and there are lists all over the internet about a feelings and needs list. They're all organized slightly differently. My feelings list, it's basically, you've got your green flag feelings, and those are the pleasurable feelings like gladness, excitement, joy, right? And those are telling me that my core needs are being met right now when I'm having those feelings. And often it's a basket of feelings. It's not always simple, but you can always identify the top few, right? So, and then the red flag feelings, there's 4 major camps: mad, sad, scared, and bad. And mad and sad and scared are pretty obvious. The bad kind of includes the shame, guilt, kind of confusion, like a lot of things that don't quite fit under the other camps, right? And so my feelings are my compass, because they are telling me when I'm getting my needs met, when I'm not.
Okay.
And then the needs, the core human needs we're talking about, there's in this configuration of them, there's 4 camps again: security, autonomy, community, and possibility. So security is around being safe. That's all around our survival: strength, food, rest, energy, ease, warmth, power, efficacy, movement, harmony. When we have that going on, we're in a state of peace. So, for example, in your example, Natalie, with your daughter, her needs for ease and rest, right, and energy, right, weren't being met. So autonomy, the next camp, is around being real. It's where the seat of our self-esteem. So it's freedom, authenticity, choice, integrity, creativity, learning, honesty, challenge, space, self-expression, clarity, growth, wisdom. When we have that going on, we have a sense of truth about ourselves and our lives. And then community. We're social animals. So the 3rd category is community, belonging. Our sense of belonging is very primal. Kindness. We all need kindness, respect, nurturance, compassion, intimacy, support, appreciation, consideration, cooperation, exchange, care, acceptance, empathy. When we have that going on, we have love. And then the last one is around possibility, being happy. It's our spiritual center, aliveness, play, beauty, etc. And also, by the way, purpose, which is hugely important. Contribution, meaning, right? Very important. And when we have that going on, we experience a sense of joy. So these core human needs. So when you've got the compass of the feelings pointing you to which needs may be being met, which ones may be not being met, then you can start immediately addressing the heart of the matter, which is to help everyone involved to get their needs met and to stay on the same team while you're doing that. And so really that's the core.
And the way that you approach humans and our humanity, I can imagine the massive benefit that has in your mediations, whether they are within families or congregations or workplace. I mean, I can just picture that it has a tremendous, rich benefit to every aspect of our existence.
Yes, it streams. It does a couple things. Number one, it helps me to myself as a facilitator and mediator connect with the humanity of each party involved, and then it helps me bridge that connection, them to each other. Right. And then the second main thing it does, so because when people are connected and they're in touch with their own humanity and they're in touch with the humanity of the other, in other words, what the person was feeling like, what kind of needs they were trying to do, then they can see, oh yeah, that wasn't such a great strategy. And the thing that Rosenberg realized is we're never in conflict at the level of needs. We always think we are, but we're not. We all have the same ones, and it's actually the portal to compassion, because I know a need for companionship, so I can relate to your feeling of loneliness because I've had it too. And our needs for companionship are not in conflict. We might have strategies. That's where we're in conflict. We have different strategies, all of us, one from the other, according to our personalities, our backgrounds, you name it, our cultures. But as a mediator with these tools, I can streamline the conversation so that we get really clear about needs, and we're also already connected as human beings in our humanity, in our authentic humanity, before we ever try to dive into solutions. And that's the other thing that people don't do, besides learning how to press the pause button, learning how to give ourselves empathy when we're in a emotionally heated place. The other thing that we do consistently wrong when we just wing it through conflict is we jump into solutions way before it's time.
Right. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think, I will credit my parents for a really important lesson that I learned. And that was that you can be as hard as you want on the issues. You have to always be gentle with people. And so be gentle with humans. You can be hard on issues, but always be gentle with humans. And that life lesson, that little mantra that they said over and over and over repeatedly to us when we were growing up, was such a key component to the way that we interact with the world.
Yes.
And the little conversation with my daughter, and it's been many, many, many years since I had that conversation, but I hear her repeating it with her own daughter.
Yes.
And
don't you love that?
And my son-in-law had never heard of such a thing before, and he has put that into his parenting, and he uses it with his neighbors, and he uses it with his colleagues. And the idea that we disagree about an issue, that's okay, and having sometimes difficult conversations about something that we don't agree about, that's okay. We can debate those things. We can debate them intelligently, but we can debate them respectfully, because the primary conversation, the primary language, the primary heart is that it's another human that you're having this discussion with.
Right.
So
exactly. It's a human that you are interdependent with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think your practice is absolutely lovely. Absolutely lovely. I want to encourage everyone to log onto your website and start your business there in Ventura, California.
Yes.
And so it's Peace, PEACE, and then AEL.com.
Right. So it's peaceable with no E at the end.
Right.
Right. Peaceable.com.
Exactly.
And I work on Zoom, just like this video. So it doesn't matter where you live.
Perfect. Catherine, I have loved having this conversation with you. And so for all of our viewers, now they've stuck with us for a few minutes. At the beginning, we promised them a free gift if they stuck to the end of the video. What is the free gift that you are gifting to everyone? Thank you, Natalie. I have really two. So if you jump on Peaceable, there's a blueprint on there that will explain a lot of what I've talked about today. So you can grab that. And if you are in a place where you are in one of your key relationships, either at home with a spouse or a teen, a teen child, if you, or in a business team, either with a partner or maybe it's your boss, if you are in a conflict where you're experiencing a 7 out of 10 pain point, then I encourage you to schedule, and there's a link on my website as well for this, to schedule a complimentary breakthrough conversation. And it'll start with a questionnaire, and we will look at where you are in this relationship and what your vision for it is, and also what your obstacles are right now. And I will show you the path through. So. Catherine, you are so generous. Oh my goodness. I'm stunned. What a lovely, lovely gift to give people. Really incredible. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're welcome. And I thank you for this opportunity to give it, and also to encourage it, because
because a lot of people, it's like making that phone call or setting up the appointment is the hardest thing. And I just want to tell people it's actually really faster and easier to move through this than it is to just keep like pushing it off. So,
well, I will, of course, in the description bar down below, put in your website so that people can find that. But I'm also going to list the actual page where they can click to go and find that blueprint that you're talking about.
yeah.
And so
On the homepage.
Yeah, and so we're going to make it as easy as we possibly can for the viewers to find you, to find these gifts that you've so generously offered everybody. Thank you so much for doing that for the viewers. I really appreciate it. Yes?
I just want to thank you because so many people really don't understand what mediation can do. They just think of it in a legal kind of framework, and that's even pretty sketchy in terms of their understanding of it. So thank you for bringing this out into the world more so people can take advantage of these beautiful skills for health and happiness, honestly.
It's my pleasure. It is important to understand that, we have these other processes available to us all. They are accessible, they are cathartic, they are lovely, they provide resolution to things that people didn't even know they were fighting about. Of course, we can resolve the issue that you have, on its face, but they can go so much more deep than that. And that's why your practice is so important to know. But, well, I will, again, so much for your time and encourage everyone to click on the links, find Catherine Cooley, use her blueprint, take advantage of her offer of the gift, and as always, be good humans. Thanks very much.
Bye.